That's why you're there, Jeff. Okay, let's start again. Hello, everyone. Today is Saturday, July 24th, 2021. Who would have thought that we'd still be here? Welcome to our Contract Trust Conference Call. We're not accountants, tax professionals, lawyers, or currency dealers. We're not engaged in rendering legal, tax, accounting, or other professional advice. If you require those services, you should retain competent advice from a professional in that field. Well, thank you for joining us today. We are Indicator Information Institute. My name is Carol Werelius, and my partner, Jim Knox, and I have these calls every second and fourth Saturday of the month. These calls are recorded and available on our website, www.indicatorinformation.com, iqdcalls.com, and YouTube. As we get closer and closer to our expected exchange, we thought this would be a good time to review our common law contract trust and why we think it is the best vehicle for you to protect your assets. As always, your questions are welcome. Just star 6 to raise your hand. Although we're not going to discuss the details of the RV DCR, we are still hearing talk about it being ready to go anytime now. And folks, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of disinformation out there. So I think all we can do is just sit tight and wait for it to happen, because who knows what we're hearing is right or not. But we do encourage you to be ready. As most of you know, being prepared is always a good idea. We've been told, I think I'll just get a so-called skeleton trust in the bank and go from there. We strongly advise against that. The bank is not your friend. The trust they create for you will more than likely name them as trustee, giving them the power to do whatever they deem appropriate, probably without your approval. They can do a lot of damage to your account in the 30 to 90 days it may take to get a proper trust created. People have asked, well, why should I establish a trust rather than to continue owning currency in my own name and social security number? Well, owning anything in your own name and social leaves your assets exposed. If you were to exchange in your own name, then have an accident or heart attack on the way home, all that money would be at risk, would be taxed at the federal rate of 40% after the current exemption. The assets can be tied up for court in years, and your family may not see any of it for a very long time. Many have recommended all your accounts be labeled as POD, or payable at death. Well, this takes care of the probate issue, but it's still at risk of taxes and becomes public information. Most of you on this call are aware that we offer and create non-grantor, irrevocable, common law contract business trusts. For the sake of simplicity, we refer to it simply as a contract trust. It is technically a business trust, but we have opted to drop the word business from the title, as it sometimes causes confusion. If your trust says business trust, it is okay and still very valid. In a prudent estate planning, compels you not to own anything. Asset management, not ownership, is the best method available to reduce the risk of loss. You can do this by utilizing the contract trust. No insurance at any cost can furnish the protection that the contract trust can provide. It provides protection for you, your family, your goals, or objectives. Remember, the secret of real wealth is not ownership but control. The use of the contract trust that we offer totally eliminates probate and inheritance taxes. Unlike a revocable grantor trust, contract trust is irrevocable. Irrevocable means no one can tell you to terminate the trust to pay someone else. Your assets are protected from anybody trying to get money from you personally. A contract trust is created in contemplation of life, not death. The most significant distinctions between revocable and irrevocable trust are the estate tax considerations. Property that you place in irrevocable trust is no longer considered part of your estate, meaning the property typically isn't included in your estate's value when it comes to determine if you owe death taxes and if so, how much. The management of any trust lies with the trustee. One of the major benefits is that the contract allows you to be the trustee of your own trust. You retain full management, control, and benefit of the assets of the trust. There is no manager, protector, outside trustee, or anybody else telling you what you can and cannot do. There is no one between you and your money, which is pretty important. Additionally, there are no annual fees, It is private, not registered in any state. It is private, not required to be registered in any state except Nevada unless it is actively engaged in operating a business. Because it is not registered in any state, your privacy and anonymity are pretty much guaranteed. The trust owns its assets in fee simple, meaning 100% of the asset belongs to the trust, and it is managed by one or more trustees. The assets of the trust will never be subject to probate or inheritance and estate taxes. The assets of the trust are protected from third-party creditors who may have an issue with you personally. You can name your spouse as co-trustees. One or both of you can become executive trustees, allowing one to act on behalf of the other. You can name your children as successor trustees. When the trust is created, you need to name one or more successor trustees. And, folks, we will not create a trust without you naming a successor. But typically it's your kids that you name. If they're minors, you can name an interim successor trustee to manage the trust on their behalf until they're old enough and mature enough to handle it. You can designate one or more successor trustees, specifying that they both become trustees at the same time or one goes before the other. You can change this designation at any time for any reason. You can add a bloodline clause to ensure that your family's generational wealth does not fall into others' hands. While you can't rule from the grave, you can specify that all future trustees be part of your bloodline to be proven by a DNA test. For instance, you can name your daughter as your successor trustee, and she can name her children, but not her husband. We have added a spendthrift clause so that no future trustee, successor trustee, or certificate holder shall have any right to alienate, encumber, or hypothecate any interest in the trust, or pledge his or her possible share of trust income. Record keeping is minimal, and you can do it yourself. We give you very specific directions on operating your trust, as well as instructions on writing minutes that document your actions. Obviously, this will save you time and money. Our website, www.indicatorinformation.com, is full of sample minutes for your use. The website is members only for your authorized use only. Contract trust is an irrevocable common law contract trust that is actually a contract in trust format. We are guaranteed the right to contract by the U.S. Constitution. You may have projects you wish to start. Consider this. After the exchange and this newfound wealth, you really think you'll be managing that money in your projects by yourself. The numbers that this may bring in are far higher than most of us have ever dreamt about, let alone managed. Don't expect to be able to live the life of Riley just because you finally have some money. Great wealth also brings great responsibility. We are often asked about getting money out of the trust. As trustee, you're entitled to a salary. Well, this is taxable to you. We think it's a good idea. You can take as much or as little as you determine you need. If you find you can't make it on $10,000 a month, give yourself a raise. It is a taxable event. You are also entitled to a share of a distribution, much like a stock dividend, if you, the trustee, decides to make one. Again, that would be taxable income. Creating secondary contract trusts like real estate and vehicle trusts is an excellent way to purchase that new house or fancy car without creating a loan or taxable event. That way, the new trust owns the asset from day one, is not a taxable event, and you don't have to make loan payments. You could also borrow from the trust. A big question for many is, how do I pay off my house, or how do I purchase new property? There are a couple of ways to do this. You could borrow the money from the trust personally, essentially a new mortgage or refi that you control, or the trust could pay off or purchase the property itself. In either case scenario, you still end up owning the property in your own name. That is not a good idea if you're trying to keep a low profile. A better option is to obtain a mortgage from the trust secured by the promissory note and put the house into real estate trust. This is also not a taxable event. You could let the trust pay for your business expenses. You will have office expenses, professional assistance, as well as the automobile expenses. If you're planning a trip, make it a business trip so you can write off most of the expenses. Likewise with a golf or tennis membership. You need to expand the circle of your potential business offers, right? Suppose you're thinking about buying property in Europe. Why not make it a working vacation? Talk to realtors, pick up business cards, etc. And, I'm sure we'll all going to meet a lot of business contacts on the golf course, tennis courts, marinas, etc. Maybe the trust could contribute to the cost of those memberships. Well, I wouldn't try to write off the cost of everything. It's certainly a good way to pay for these expenses. The trust can also pay for your insurance needs. Most of those expenses are tax deductible to the trust. Regardless of which method or combination of methods you choose, be sure to write minutes to support your actions. You must be diligent in keeping the trust contact legal and in compliance with federal, state, county, and city codes. People often ask, will I need more than one contract trust? While you probably don't need additional contract trust at this point, you will most likely want to diversify post-RV. We like to call this first contract trust your motherlode trust. It is and should stay private, not only to you and your private banker or wealth manager. We suggest you never purchase anything from this trust and never do online banking from this trust. Once all the initial business of exchange redemption has settled down, you may wish to create additional contract trusts for specific needs. We offer secondary trusts such as management trusts, real estate trusts, vehicle trusts, and charitable trusts. And that probably covers my portion today. Jim, what would you like to talk about?
Well, I made some notes before the call that I wanted to go over, and you did touch on a few of them. And one I wanted to make sure everybody understands is our product is trust, not RV news. I don't participate in any of the RV stuff. I don't. If anybody sends me emails, I just delete them. I use MailWatcher Pro. I love the program. That email is still on the server. I delete it before it even comes into my computer. I just do not participate in that because I got too many other things I'm trying to do. My opinion is most of this is all disinformation at this point. We just don't know what's going to happen, And, of course, the gurus du jour right now are saying some wild and crazy things. So I want to make sure everybody understands that we are not involved in the RV. We simply supply a product that will benefit you post-RV. And Carol's done an excellent job today on letting people know what we can do. That's what I really wanted to say. And we just open up the questions because I need some guidance on what you people really want to know.
Okay. The Q&A session is alive and well, folks. Just star 6 to raise your hand, and we will answer your questions. I spoke a moment ago about people asking how to get money out of the trust. And I know people are initially, okay, this RV has happened. I really don't know what I can do yet, but I know I need some money. How do I get money out of the trust? Can I just take it? Just write a check? Well, as most of you know, we suggest you write minutes to document your actions. Maybe one of those actions could be paying yourself in arrears for the cost of the trust that you've had for, in some cases, 10 years. Paying yourself for managing the currency in the trust or managing the trust itself for all these years. Paying yourself back for the money that you spent purchasing all this currency. So, I have a client friend in the Seattle area who's doing just that. She has diligently recorded every single sale, every single purchase, rather, and she is going to pay herself back the cost of the currency, plus whatever management fees or trustee fees she feels she is entitled to. So that's just another way to get some money out of the trust up front without having to think about, do I need to take loans, blah, 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 blah. Make it expense it out. It's a lot easier that way. Jim, I don't see any hands up yet.
Well, we must have done a great job then.
I guess.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the benefit of the trust. A lot of people don't understand what we do and why it was done originally. The trust is designed to separate the ownership. And this thing goes clear back to the 1400s. And we've talked about that on other recordings. I don't want to beat that one up again. But these things go clear back to the 1400s. And the very wealthy people own virtually nothing, but they control massive amount of assets. Therefore, they're indemnified of any issues. And that's what you're going to be wanting to do with these trusts. You're going to be wanting to manage the large buildings you're going to buy, the investment real estate, the aircraft. Of course, unfortunately, you can't put the aircraft in the trust, but you can put the aircraft in a corporation, have a trust manage the corporation, and you can defer some of your expenses that way. You can be buying, anything that you buy as an investment will be in the trust name, or in a trust name, not the mother-lode trust, but in a trust name. And you have no ownership, so therefore you're indemnified should something happen on that property. And if you look at the mega wealthy, Kennedys are a good example. There was a few issues in the history of the Kennedys, recent history, where one of them had an accident and somebody died. And, of course, the family thought, great, we lost our child, but we're going to sue the Kennedys. Well, there was nothing to sue. The automobile that she died in was in a trust. They didn't get much out of that. Only thing they could do is go after the senator's salary. And he stayed in Congress for a couple more years and decided, I don't want to pay that no more, and quit. So these trusts are designed to protect you and protect your children's income and maybe even your grandchildren's, because these trusts last for 25 years. And then you simply renew the trust for another 25 years, which I just recently did on 6 of my trusts, by simply doing a minute. It's that simple. And the bookkeeping to manage a trust is very, very simple. It's, you don't have to write big reports and have all this, although I do quite a detailed list of all my expenses just because I want to know where my money's going, because I run multiple trusts. So that's what I wanted to bring to the conversation. Do we have anybody asking questions yet?
We do. We can start with Raul. Hey, Raul.
Ooh.
Hi there, guys. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I have a question. I want to get back to the question that was, how do I take money out of the mother-lode trust? And I have, as you know, purchased a management trust along with my mother-lode trust, but it came with an agreement between those two that I can take a salary every month. Is that another way to take money out of the trust? Is the question posed earlier?
That is the first thing I always mention, is you are entitled to the trustee salary, and you can take it off of each trust. It doesn't just have to be the mother-lode. It doesn't have to be just the management. You can, if you've got 6 trusts, you can take a salary from all 6 of them. Okay.
And then enough to buy a house or pay off mortgages. I know that maybe that'd be a moot point considering what may happen, but in terms of those things, large amounts of debt, you can pay them off as well.
Large amounts of debt. Okay. Jim, you want to take that one?
Yeah. Okay.
Like
you can pay off. You can pay off other debts. The trust can pay off. They can absorb those debts, and then it can become part of your. In other words, it could buy the debt. It becomes part of the trust estate, not your estate anymore. So you can actually sell the debt to the trust. We'd have to put that together in a specific type of minute, but that's not a big deal. And we'd have to get with possibly a CPA to help you structure that so it's indemnified, but we can do that.
Okay.
I've done it in the past.
A minute would be forthcoming later on for that concern.
Yeah, it would be simple to do. We have quite a few minutes on there. If I ever find somebody that could really help me, I've had a couple people say they'd want to come down, move down here and do this. No. I just want somebody to help me on the website. So I'm still putting that out there. I've got 2 or 3 people I've talked to, and they just didn't work out. But I've got over 800 minutes that I still want to put on the website. I've got to put them by category and description each one of them. That's going to take a little bit of work. But I have 800 minutes, different styles.
Wow.
So, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, well, thanks for answering my question. That's all I have, Appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You take care.
Okay, you too.
Gary, you're up.
Yeah, that was a great question that Raul just asked, because I had the same question. I was going to ask one of the same things, but I have a procedure question. Right now I've got my mother-lode trust in place, ready to go there, but let's say the RV happens next week, and there's a house that I want that's been for sale for 4.5 years. It's still available, and I'd like to get it. but I don't have a real estate trust yet or anything. How do I go about putting an offer in, locking that up, and then getting the trust set up? And I want to get a management trust set up also.
And to make an offer on the house, before you have your trust, you're going to offer. The offers will be made by your name and or assigned.
Okay.
And you're going to get a hold of us. We'll create the real estate trust for you. And by the time you close, you'll have a real estate trust.
Oh, okay. That sounds relatively painless.
It is.
I was expecting a more complicated answer.
No. When you purchase the property, you're going to purchase it in your own name and or assigned.
Okay.
Let me jump in there real quick.
Sure.
Excellent answer, Carol. Excellent answer. But let me go a little further. So and or assigned simply means that I'm a former real estate agent, former realtor, 3 states. So I've done a couple of these. Okay? And or assigned. What you're doing is you're telling the people, look, I am the agent that's going to buy this, or the person or the man that's going to buy this, but I think I might want to put it into my estate. So if they ask you what you're doing and or assigns, you may get that question from the seller. Well, I'm going to set this up in my estate, and I'm going to set up an entity for it. So I'm going to assign it at close to the entity, and that'll solve the mystery, and they will agree to go ahead and go forward with it. There's been a couple times in my past where somebody says, well, I don't understand that. I don't think I want to do that. So you better be prepared to answer that question. That's why I want to jump in here, to explain to you and everybody what it means. So and or assigns, it simply means that in the future, before we close, I'm going to give you a different name that I want this property put into. It does not affect the sale, nor the price, nor the terms. It's simply a way for me to have time to come up with that entity that I have to create before closing. That's all I want to add.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You bet.
Okay. All right. Sandy, how are you doing today?
Okay. If you would explain, I had someone that I was trying to tell them about what the trust can do for them. And when I got finished, they said, well, we have a corporation, and we're just going to put the money into the corporation. And I tried to explain, but I don't think I did a very good job because they're still planning on doing that. Can you help me on that? It's a family member. It's a family member, and I'm trying to tell them that that's not a good idea.
Jim?
Yeah, it's a terrible idea. I agree with you, Sandy. It's a terrible idea. Only because the corporation is a fiction of the state they're living in. In other words, the corporation is created, has to get permission to function from the state. You got to pay fees, and then you get to know exactly what you're doing with your corporation. If they don't like what you're doing, they'll kill the corporation and make you do other things, and it's a real pain in the butt. The corporation has no protection in it, really, because it's an entity that the state can take you to court and demand you remove the asset out of the corporation should you get into a lawsuit. They can't do that with a trust. And there's corporate taxes. There's state corporate taxes. There's federal corporate taxes. There's all of this reporting paperwork that you have to go through every year. It's just really it's a violation of your privacy, basically. The trust does just the opposite. It enhances, increases your privacy, and it keeps you away from those state bureaucrats that have a tendency to change things, and then all of a sudden you got a new tax. So what they're looking at is a very high, potentially taxable event, and probably some exposure, liability-wise, should something go wrong on the property or in the car. If the car's in the corporation, they can pierce that and come after them personally because of the corporate officers. They have the stock in that corporation. And that's basically what I would say is look, it's a bad decision. and explain to them that the privacy issue is the biggest thing, and the fact that it's not part of the state. That help?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
You bet.
You're welcome. Okay. Dean, how are you?
This is Dean. And do you have any changes on, or have heard anything about, we have to put everything in one account at the first appointment? In other words, the currencies would all end up in one mother load and one account, basically. Is that right yet?
I have no idea. There's no way to know, because
it changes every day, so who knows?
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Okay, well, I was just wondering if it heard anything different on that. As far as the quantum financial system, is that going to be as safe as they're talking about? In other words, can we think about maybe an interest-bearing account, or should we just keep with the fact that it's non-interest-bearing?
No question. I have no idea. We, until it comes down and they tell us how it operates, there's no way to know.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
Thank you. I was wondering what changes there were, but apparently we haven't heard anything yet.
Nope, not a thing.
Should we go ahead and am I still here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Should we go ahead and put the money in possibly two different trusts, even though we're going to end up changing it at the when we get the financial advisor and everything? Or should we still just put everything into the mother load and then worry about changing it out?
Well,
again,
Carol,
Dean,
what do
you
you
work
think
into
about
an area we don't really know about.
Yeah. There's until we get there to the bank, Dean, and actually see what they're doing, we don't know what's going to happen. It's an area that nobody has been able to give us any concrete information on. We hear rumors, but I don't like spreading rumors because 9 times out of 10 they're just BS rumors. So we just
agree.
This is an area that we try and stay out of because there's no way for us to know what they're going to do, and it's going to be a discovery for everybody. We're all going to go in there blind, not knowing what to expect. So and then we're all just going to have to wing it on some of that stuff. That's why we have these calls. That's why we have the websites. Why we try and tell people this is how the trust works. Get to know how your trust works. Understand the nuances. Read the trust. It's only 10 pages long. Read it 7 or 8 or 10 times. Read it once a week so you get familiar with it. So you know what clause you have to go to if they ask a question. It's your job to manage this money, and the best way to manage this money that we feel is put it in trust. But you've got to understand the trust. You really got to get intimate with the document. You've got to understand what you can do. Because if they throw something at you and you're not well-versed and ready to go, you may make a terrible mistake. We just don't know. So I encourage everybody, read the trust many times. Get to understand it. Have your spouse read it. Ask questions back and forth. Make a little quiz for each other so you really understand it. It's only 9.5 to 10 pages long.
Yeah.
It's really necessary to understand what you're doing, and that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. And, also,
well,
they've talked about in the past having different accounts for the different currencies. Accounts being the operative word. And they never said you need different trusts for the different currencies, just different accounts under the same trust. But, again, if QFS comes in, who knows? And none of us know what's going to happen, as like Jim said, until we're actually there. So.
Thank you very much, Carol and Jim. I appreciate all your help.
You're welcome.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, wireless caller, area code 267.
Hello, hi, it's Keith Earl. It's been a while, so I'm calling today. How you guys doing? Hey, Jim. Hi, Carol.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm well. Thank you. I have a question, and Carol, I'm glad you mentioned the reimbursement of the foreign currencies into the trust. I have the same question around precious metals. You know, I own various amounts of precious metals, and that can be done as well, right? Initially, I set up a precious metals trust, and then write it via minute into the account. Another statement says via minute that I'm going to be reimbursed for everything, and then just keep the receipts under the trust. Is that the correct thing?
No, that's how I would
say so.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then also, the other question. Oh, geez, you know what? I'm not going to top time. I'll just come back in if I need to.
Okay,
all right.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks for your question, Doc.
Yeah. Shelley, you're next.
Hey. Yeah, I have missed quite a few of your calls, but I'm still really curious. I don't quite understand the management trust. Do we actually put money in the management trust? Is the management trust just, basically a hand that operates the other trust? Can you explain that to me?
Carol, you want me
to,
or are you going to go?
No, you go ahead, Jim.
All right. So when you have a real estate trust or an automobile trust, you really don't want to have an EI number attached to those. It's not necessary. So the only two EI numbers I actually have is my mother-in-law trust and my management trust. So when I create the real estate trust or the management trust, I use a mother-in-law trust as the investor, and we go through the whole rigmarole. And then there's a contract that we're setting up for everybody. They'll be on the website probably this week. We tried to get them last week, but I've had a lot of internet issues. Anyway, enough of that. You simply have a contract to go to the management trust. And in that, for the real estate, let's say that you're going to buy $1 million house, just grabbing a number. Well, you need $1 million to buy the house. Well, the money is going to be put into the real estate trust for that house. However, the real estate trust does not have an account. So it contracts the management trust. So the money is diverted to the management trust. The management trust then would facilitate writing the check for the house.
Okay. That's kind
and
of what I thought.
You'd also put additional funds in there for the maintenance, insurance, and everything else for the house for the next 10 years.
Okay.
That's part of the
now,
deal. So it'd be $1 million.
I'm sorry.
$1.1 million, for example, and then you have that extra $100,000 in there to pay for all those insignificant things. Same with an automobile.
All right.
That help?
So that extra, say, for instance, in the example you just gave, the extra $1 million or whatever for the maintenance and all that stays in the real estate trust, right?
No. The real estate trust it's dedicated to the real estate trust, but it's in the management trust because the real estate trust does not have a bank account.
Okay. I think I understand.
Well, let me use this example. Let me use this last example here real quick.
Okay.
It's like an escrow company. When you write a check for your house payment every month, that check goes to an escrow company, and it's broken down to 4 pieces: principal, interest, taxes, and prorations. Prorations for insurance and so on and so forth. That's essentially what the management company does. It has all this money, and it writes those checks, takes care of the maintenance, takes care of the taxes, takes care of all of the stuff that may come up on the house, a new roof, new air conditioner, all of that stuff. It'll have money in there. The money just sits in the account.
Right. So in
that's how it works.
In essence, it's just a manager. It's not the managers. The manager is just delegating.
Right.
Is that the right?
The managers are the trustees. The managers are the trustees. It's the management entity. It does what the trustees tell it to do. And it's there to simply facilitate paying all of those bills for all your sundry trusts, your automobile trust, your real estate trust, your boat trust, whatever you may have, whatever you decide you want to buy. And you don't need an EI number. You just simply create the trust, real estate trust, car trust, equipment trust, charitable trust, whatever. And the management trust is your escrow company that cuts the checks.
Okay.
And that's all done through a series of contracts that you will have between your trusts.
Okay. So, sorry. So the on that one more, and I know I get it, but for some reason I'm having it's like there's a missing link. So let's say we've got the mother load, and we want to purchase a property. So we don't open a trust then for the property. Is that what you're telling me? We don't have a trust for? Okay.
No, you do have a trust. You open a trust for the property. And how the trust is created is a mother load trust would be the investor, and it would create the mother load trust. Create the real estate trust. But now it needs to put the money someplace. But since the real estate trust does not have an account and no EI number, no bank account, it's diverted to the management trust because the contract between the real estate trust and the management trust and a sundry contract also to the mother load trust to do that, to put the money in there on behalf of the real estate trust. So you have, as trustee, you can write those checks.
Okay, I get it. Thank you. It's there. It's in my. I got it. Appreciate you.
Okay. All right. You bet.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
Okay, Raul, you remembered your other question.
This is Raul again. I don't mean to double dip.
Yeah, no problem.
But there was a call earlier about other assigned. Now, I have a management trust, and I also have some information about assigning a president. So the president can be the signature for the other assigned or the name of the real estate trust?
All of the above.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can choose either one. Go with that.
Right. So let's go back to that for a second because it's a good point. I'm glad you brought this up. What you do, Raul, is you for me, what I'm doing is I have a gentleman that I've been working with a lot. He has a trust. I have a trust. He's a good friend of mine, a good client of mine, and we've agreed to help each other. So what he's going to do, he's going to be the president of my real estate trust. I'm going to be the president of his real estate trust. So he's going to sign and put all my stuff in through the system with his name as president, and I'm going to do his. Now, there's no connection other than a friendship. So, and his sole job is, and my sole job, vice versa, is simply to get that real estate into the registry. That's all we're going to do, get the real estate into the registry. The trustees will continue to do the money part, but the president is just going to be the person that signs to put the thing in the recording. That's what I'm trying to come up with. It's recorded at the county level.
Okay.
That's where people start looking for who's the owner of this property because I want to sue. So I'll be the president of that entity that puts it in there. Then my job is done. Then it's going to be a trust entity, but I'm the president of that trust. I know it sounds weird, but this is true. And so then when they start screaming, I say, well, I don't work for that company anymore. I was just the president. I have no liability.
So there's anonymity.
Yeah, and so I walk away. So now the people trying to find out what's going on come to the conclusion eventually that, this is in a irrevocable trust. And the only thing is in that is that, and we can't force them to take it out to give us the money. So they're too locked. They just can't go any further.
So that protects you or anybody else from getting your name out there.
And, it does, because they can't follow me on that property because I was simply a hired gun temporarily.
Yes, I get that. So, that clarifies that one. Now, let's say that a woman had a question about wanting to buy a property, and so money is put into the management trust to buy that particular property for the real estate trust.
Right.
Is the name of real estate? The name of the real estate trust will be the name that's purchasing that home.
Correct.
Okay. So there's anonymity in both ways. Okay. Well,
right.
you've
So
answered that question.
It's a three-way contract. Real estate trust is created by the mother-lode trust. And then the real estate trust contracts to the mother-lode, or to the management trust to manage the money. But the mother-lode trust had to put the money in there. So part of the contract on the real estate trust to the mother-lode trust, or the agreement is, put it in there, they're going to manage it for me.
Okay.
It's just a way to keep everybody else's nose out of your business. That's the whole idea.
I agree.
Is just keep them away. So,
I hear you. Thank you, James. Thank you, Carol. That's great. That's clarifying. Very well.
Well, I don't see any callers at the moment, but Dr. Keith, you had your hand up a moment ago. Do you still have a question? Or did we answer it? Well, I guess we must have answered. I guess we did.
Okay.
Well,
so let's talk a bit more about this situation with the trust. You got a question?
Yeah, we do have a question. A hand up right now. Hang on.
Go ahead.
Norma, is that you?
Hi, Carol and Jim. This is Jerry and Norma.
Hi.
Howdy.
Hi, hon. Don't really have a question as much as just a comment, and I know people have got a lot of questions concerning what's been being said in different places, and we just can't open that can of worms. But because, like you said, Jim and Carol, there's just so much that we don't know yet, and there's a reason we don't know. There's too much involved that they don't want out in the Internet, so I won't say public, but Internet realm ahead of time. But no matter what the exchange redemption event brings our way, listen to me, I've been doing a lot of dictation and telephone calls and text, but anyway, no matter what that event brings, there's nothing going to negate that I can see what the value of your trust, your common law friendly trust, contract trust, are going to give to us, because as we move forward, even if everything is exchanged into one account in our personal names or whatever, if it's QFS, and I fully believe it is, and that is not banking, however, that's just my opinion, but even if it's that way, you will eventually, and I would say pretty soon, need to start to move that money, some of it into different places like you were talking about, with what we've always referred to as mother-lode and management trusts. You'll begin to need to move money around as different activities that we've been anticipating all this time begin to open up to us. And it's going to help us have a better management of the monies as we move into different projects or investments or, all these different things that's going to be taking place. Your trust will be there to give us that path that we'll be able to leave like you said, a paper trail, and with common law coming in, and I fully believe that's where we're going to settle off, our signature will mean something again. And so therefore, attorneys are going to go by the wayside. Lawyers will be needed, I would assume, for legal things that you're going to need to handle in the public realm. But your signature is going to mean something. So when you sign something on a note, or you put a note in your minutes, or you put a minute into your different trusts that you're working with at the time, and you sign something or you have your signature notarized, it's going to mean something. But in my opinion, these trusts will be invaluable as we move forward, no matter what the exchange event itself is. Just wanted to make that comment, and thank y'all so much for all the effort you put into all this.
Well, thank you, Norma.
Well, thank you, Norma. That was excellent. Now, I'm going to emphasize one of the points Norma just made. Folks, these trusts will work in no matter what system they bring forward. We already know we're going to go back to the republic form of government. All nations nations on the planet will be in a republic form of government. Think that through. Let that sink in. All nations have to be a republic form of government to be part of Jasara. We are already there as Nasara. So it doesn't matter if it's QFS or of a new system they bring that we don't even know about yet. It's all based on contract. We're already there. You know, the trust is a series of contracts. Remember, the Constitution guarantees the right to contract. The trust is a series of contracts cast in trust form for convenience. That's simply what it is. So it doesn't matter what system they bring to us. This document will work. I guarantee it. It will work. It'll work better than anything else I know about. And I've been playing this game since the late 70s. So Norma hit it, the nail on the head. Bless her heart. She did. And we don't know, like I always say, we don't know what we don't know yet. But when we get there, trust me, what we have produced here will work perfectly. You want to add to that, Carol?
Well, yeah, I mean, some people have said, you know, we're going to go to common law. What's going to happen? Well, you know, our trust is common law. We are way ahead of the game, folks. All these other trusts that have been written by attorneys' offices and et cetera, they're the ones that may fall by the wayside because they're written in a different language with a different purpose. So having our contract common law trust, you're already one step ahead of the game.
Yeah, the unique thing is owning one of these, having one of these, and operating one of these things puts you at the nosebleed level above all the statutory things. I mean, you're so far ahead of everybody else, it's scary. And when you finally recognize the fact that we're going to go to a contractual-based entity worldwide, we're already there.
Yeah.
So we're leading the pack, and which is a fun position to be in.
Yep.
I've been a follower many times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim, we have another hand raised here.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, another Jim, area code 919.
Yes, so question regarding when we have redeemed and exchanged currencies and our monies is in our motherlode account, and we begin transferring those monies to management account or taking salaries or what have you, can you all just tell us what will be taxable and what will not be taxable?
No.
No, we don't know what we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know the new system yet. Now, I would suspect that some of the stuff we're hearing is true, and that is we're going to go away from an income tax because basically, folks, that's unlawful and illegal. By the way, an illegal is a sick bird, but no, it's unlawful. So we probably won't have that type of a situation. The state, the states are finally realizing the power they have, the people of the state, I should say. And you may have a state tax. I don't think it'll be much. But we're hearing that you'll pay a purchase tax on anything new, somewhere between 14 and 18%. I have no idea what it's going to be. That'll fund everything the government needs. But only paying that on the new stuff, on something that you buy.
Under today's laws, if you withdraw from a trust to pay yourself a salary, is that taxable today under today's laws?
It is to your Social Security number. Yes, it is.
Okay.
That's income in your Social Security number.
Okay. But if you transfer it to a management fund or buy real estate under today's laws, that's not a taxable event for the trust.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
So the only thing you have to pay tax on today is if you take income from the trust as wages or whatever you want to call it. If it's income to your Social Security number, yes, you pay taxes personally. The trust doesn't.
Okay.
You do.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Well, Jim, that is the last of our callers, or questions, rather.
Okay. I've been making notes about everybody's questions today, so I will be put that on in the minutes later. There was a couple things here that I may want to expand on. Stop me if we get a question.
Okay.
Okay, so we were talking about the and/or assigns. I want to go a little further with that. You can use that for virtually any product you're getting ready to buy on time. If you're trying to get into let's say that you go down and you want to buy a new car, you don't have your automobile trust set up, you can still do an and/or assigns, and you'll assign the name of the trust. You can get with us, we'll get you a name right away, or you can come up with a name, call us, and we'll get you an abstract right away, and now you've got an abstract, a piece of paper showing that you can put that car in that trust. So I want to get that out there that, the abstract is probably the first thing you need. The trust will be done right away, as fast as we can get it done. But the abstract is just a 2-pager, and when we get everything set up in the trust with the trust name and everything you need, then we just go forward. We give you the abstract. We can send it as a PDF to you right away. So you can even use it for buying a car. You can go and say, well, I want to put this in a entity name. I'm going to give you the down payment out of an account or enough money to hold it for a day or 2 or 3, and I'll get that paperwork over to you. So keep that in mind. You don't have to put the cars and stuff in your name. We can get you an abstract very shortly. Now, if you don't have to have an EI number for something, it doesn't matter what the name of the trust is. And since we don't have to go get you an EI number for an automobile trust or a real estate trust, we can get you that paperwork right away, the temporary paperwork, the abstract. So just keep that in mind. And we'll have a special I'll put an application together on 3i Trust app shortly. We're going to add a couple more applications, and one will be about that. Let's see, temporary name for trust or temporary abstract, or it won't be temporary, be provisional abstract. We'll come up with a name.
Yeah.
But you will be able to get that stuff very quickly.
And
do we have any questions?
Also talk about putting another tab on there for future trust needs?
Yeah, we will put something on there. Future, I'm making these notes. Trust needs, and abstract. I'll come up with some names for that, and we'll put it on there.
Okay.
Shortly. Yeah, these are things that is kind of like, folks, listen to do some little housekeeping here. We're trying to get this stuff ready. We know this is coming up soon. We just don't know how soon. But we're coming up with ways to help you get through this as quickly and as easily as we can. And I just got to get back to work and get some of this stuff on the computer or on the website. There's so much to do.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Well, we do have a couple more questions here. Okay.
Let's do it.
Dean, you're back.
On the supply and the money coming out of the motherlode trust, do we farm that trust underneath the motherlode, or farm it and move the money into that trust? If we're buying, let's say, a car or a property.
Well, the best way to do this is have the motherlode trust be the investor. Wouldn't you agree, Carol?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we're on the same page here. I want to make sure. There's various ways to do this. But Carol and I have come to an agreement. You want to keep it as simple for you people as possible. So the motherlode trust decides that it's going to create a real estate trust. So you can go buy, let's put it this way, the trustees of the motherlode trust make the decision. And so it would be the investor. So you would contact us. We would then put the whole thing together with the motherlode trust being the investor, and you as trustee would sign for the investor. In other words, you would say, ABC Motherlode Trust by Jim Knox, trustee, comma, and not as otherwise. So there's your limiter. You need to put that limiter behind your name at all times. That's another good thing we need to bring up. So you sign as trustee, and anything outside of the trustee, out of the trust, rather, on any documents, you want to put, and not as otherwise. You want to put your name, executive trustee or president or whatever it may be, and not as otherwise. So that's a limiter. So they know, everybody knows, and that's the whole idea of a contract. A contract is supposed to give everybody full notice about what they expect and what the ramifications are if they violate it. Well, what they expect if they're going to deal with trustee and not as otherwise, they see that, they know, okay, I'm dealing with a trust, and I got to deal only with a trust. This guy's just a signer. He's operating the trust, or he's the trustee for the trust, but he's not liable for those actions of the trust. So that's how you would do that. You would take and have the mother-lode trust would be the investor in a real estate trust. Now, you would be the trustee of the mother-lode trust. Now you're going to be the trustee of the real estate trust, and trustee of the real estate trust, and not as otherwise. And then the real estate trust then would contract the management trust to manage the money for it because it has an EI number in the bank account. It can do it. And so that's how this whole system is supposed to work. Does that help you, Dean?
It does, Jim, and yet I've got, of course, the mother-lode trust and a real estate trust. So if I was buying a property, it's not going to the trust would not be formed by the mother-lode.
Okay, then that's a different story. Okay, so then if you have the mother-lode trust set up and it's done, and you have the real estate trust ready to go, then there's various ways you can actually put some of the currency in the real estate trust and then have the mother-lode trust exchange for it and then pay it to the real estate trust because it just did it for there. So that's a different contract. So the real estate trust has $1 million IQD as an example, and it turns out to be $3 million US. Yeah. So the mother-lode trust did the exchange for it, but it owes to the real estate trust because the real estate trust loaned it that paper, that currency, to do that job for it. It was a contract to the mother-lode trust. Well, again, it goes right back to where do you put the money? Well, the real estate trust probably, it may or may not have an EI number. Some of them do, some of them don't. If it doesn't, then the contract goes back and says, okay, you owe me $3 million, return on that, but put it in the management trust for me. And then the contract between the real estate trust and the management trust makes all the payments, pays all the bills, writes the check, so to speak. So there's two ways to do this, depending on what your status is. If you already have it all set up, you just dedicate some of that currency to the real estate trust. You hand it to the mother-lode trust, trustee. They exchange it. Now they owe the real estate trust that amount of money. And what you do with it depends on the mechanism that you want to use. Either pay it to the management trust or you give it to the real estate trust if it has its own EI number and you want to do that. That help?
Oh, yeah, it sure does. In my case, it's all set up, so probably a good idea would be put some money in at the closing, put some money in the real estate trust along with the mother-lode trust because I'm planning on buying some property anyway. I should put some in there.
But you got to dedicate some of that money to the real estate trust and then loan it to the management or to the mother-lode trust. Now, does your real estate trust have an EI number? Sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't, depending on what you want.
Does it have
an EI number?
It does.
Okay, then you don't need the management trust for that. Now, all you simply do is you can either do exchange. I don't know how they're going to let us do this, Dean. I really don't know, but here's the deal. You can still loan the money to the mother-lode trust and then pay it to the real estate trust. Because it's a loan. It owned the currency. You just got to write the contract that certain amount of currency is owned by the real estate trust. Remember, you bought the currency personally, and you're using the trust to manage it. It depends on how you want to set it up. You simply dedicate $1 million IQD in our example to the real estate trust, and if you can't open an account at that time when you go with a mother-lode trust, put it all in there. Go all in, get all your money into the bank, and then just move the $3 million over to the real estate trust. It will not be a taxable event because you're paying a loan.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate your help. Carol.
You're welcome. Okay. Dr. Keith, you remembered your question.
Well, hey, it's Keith again.
Hi.
I have a question. Jim, I was listening to an old recording, and you had mentioned that you cannot put an airplane under a trust. And I was trying to find that call for someone, and I just couldn't find it. So can you give an explanation why one cannot put an airplane into a trust again?
Because the authorities want to be able to hold the person responsible if the airplane falls out of the sky and kills people. And with a trust, it's hard to get to the individual. So they just don't let you put him in a trust. I mean, I've had airplanes in the past, and I had to put them in corporations or LLCs when I was living in Alaska. And it just wasn't an impossibility. And it was an FAA rule, and I don't think it's changed. I haven't looked, but I don't think it's changed. Because in an irrevocable trust, they can't make you pull assets out of it to pay off a damage. In a corporation, they can. So they come after you personally through the corporation to pay the damages should there be an accident with an aircraft. That's pretty much the reason why they set it up that way.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. I'll direct him to this call. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Well, Jim, that looks like the end of our questions, and it's also the end of our hour. So anything else you'd like to comment on right now, Jim?
No, I'm good. It was a great call, great questions. People really are finally getting this thing down. They understand it, and which is exciting. And so let's just go ahead and say adieu until next time.
Okay, all right. Now, but before we close, I would like to mention some of the no-nos I've read regarding the exchange. Unfortunately, I can't find the quote, but in a nutshell, it says all exchangers and redeemers will be required to sign a non-disclosure agreement that would last for 90 days. And if you read between the lines, you can tell this was written by Judy Byington because she's always writing in past tense. After those 90 days, there will be another 3 months you would be tracked on what you said about your NDA. That tracking would happen through your phone conversations, email, internet, and social media. If you break the NDA and talk about your exchange, you would automatically lose your money. That NDA would be a specific period of time depending on the amount received at your exchange redemption. I have also read that we won't be able to say RV, GCR, Dong, Dinar, Zim, foreign currency, etc. Even if you're speaking to a family member or a friend who knows about it, say anything but the above words. All I know is we must be very careful. We have heard, or I have read somewhere, that when you sign the NDA, you can offer a list and say, I have many communications and much business with so-and-so. I would like to include them in my NDA so I can speak with them. Again, that's just something I read or something I heard. You may want to provide your own NDA to any professionals you hire, to any of the people you have gifted or previously spoken with regarding this investment. Also, when it comes to giving to organizations or to people, we suggest using an attorney to handle all gifting. Now, if it's $20, $50, or $100 tip here and there, that's no big deal. But if it's any real money, I'm going to utilize a legal firm to do the giving. By doing it this way, nobody receiving the funds really knows who the donor is or who the giver of the money is. It is a way to keep it private and keep it anonymous. This is just something we feel is important. We all need a certain level of security and certain people not knowing essentially where this money originated. For your own protection, the best thing to do is zip your mouth on how much you have and don't expose yourself to unnecessary luxury. Our trusts are currently priced at $19.95. We are not raising prices post-RV. We accept all 4 major credit and debit cards, and we also pay a $300 referral fee. Jim, would you like to add your contact information?
I'd like to add a statement before that. And on this NDA, one thing that we neglected to add, which is probably just common sense, but make sure that all of the trustees in all your trusts are included in your NDA. So if you have 5 trusts or 4 trusts or 3 trusts, make sure all of the trustees and successor trustees are listed in your NDA. You need to talk to your successor trustees should something happen to one of the trustees. So make sure you have all of those names ready and explain to them, hey, these are the trustees and the successor trustees. They got to know what's going on. So do that. Okay, so the best number to get a hold of me is I have an 800 number. I'll give you that one, 866-341-6907 or 503-583-6791. I'm still in Oregon, unfortunately, so I'm on the West Coast time. Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. I don't like working weekends. I try and get some time to myself. You can get hold of me at security@indicatorinformation.com. Carol?
Thank you, Jim. And thanks to all of you again for your time and attention. My name is Carol Werelius. My number is 877-333-5018. I'm available between 10 and 6 Eastern Time. I am still in Florida. The best way to reach me is by email, info@indicatorinformation.com. Have a happy and safe weekend, everybody, and go RV. Bye-bye.